Look at 23. Therefore it was necessary, verse 23, 9:23. It was necessary that the copies of the things in the heavens should be purified with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices. For Christ has not entered the holy place made with hands, because that's just a copy of the true. He entered into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Not that he should offer himself often, as a high priest that enters the most holy place every year enters with the blood of another, because he then would have had to have suffered once, or suffered often since the foundation of the world. But now, once, here's a timing verse, but now, once, at the end of the ages, he has appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. You hear that? What's the other timing verse? Jesus came at the end of the ages. Jesus came to start a reformation and to end an age. Right? Here's the beauty of it. The Greek word for, go back to verse, where was Reformation? 10. All this stuff's supposed to happen until the time of Reformation. The word Reformation is the Greek word diorthosis. Diorthosis literally means the word improvement. My title tonight was The Improvement. Because what Calvary did was improved on a system that didn't clean you up. And how often did he offer himself? Once. What's the time of Reformation? It's the time of the improvement. What needed to happen for the time of the improvement? We needed to end an age. Jesus came at the end of an era to improve what wasn't working for man. What wasn't working was dead lambs, bulls, and goats. It didn't make you perfect. It didn't work. It didn't fix you. Now go back. Where were 9? Go down to, we didn't read 14. 13, 14. If the blood, 9:13, if the blood of bulls and goats and heifers and sprinkling the unclean sanctifies the purifying of the flesh, how much more would the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living God? There's your conscience again. God cares about how you think of yourself. He cares about how you think of sin. And for this reason, he's the mediator of a new covenant by means of death for the redemption of the transgressions under the first covenant, that those who are called may receive the promise of eternal inheritance. All right, think about this. When Jesus died and rose again, Israel's house was left to them desolate. What's her house? Her temple. The marker for that was when he dies on the cross, the veil rents from top to bottom. Zechariah said 30 pieces of silver is to signify that the covenant is snapped with the people. The house has been left to them desolate. God abandoned the natural temple in Jerusalem because he favored living tabernacles. A house of lively stones, as Peter called you. A house of lively stones. Rocks that are alive. Stones that are alive. A temple not made with hands. Paul would reaffirm this because Paul writes to the Corinthians that you indeed are the temple, that the church is also the temple of the Holy Spirit. You're indeed a temple of Christ. Within one generation of the resurrection of Jesus, the temple comes down, not one stone left unturned. What Jesus said would happen within a generation had happened that way. It had to come down. I've wrestled with this. I go, why did it have to come down? You go, well, it had to come down because as long as they kept seeing it, they'd be tempted to go back to it. Yeah, I think that's part of it. But the reality is we're not all. Not every Christian, not every Jewish Christian alive in this day could see the temple. They weren't all living in Jerusalem. It's not as if seeing it and smelling it was so overwhelming it had to come down. No, there was a reason that it had to come down. Look at Deuteronomy 12, because I want to ask you this question. Why doesn't Israel, the day the temple falls, why don't they just keep killing bulls anyway? You know? I mean, why don't they just keep killing lambs? It's like, why does the temple coming down have to do with it? I'm only putting this in here for all the people that think, gosh, these guys like Paul White always emphasize so much about that temple coming down, like that was some watershed moment, like it had to happen. That's because it was a watershed moment that had to happen. That is because it was the single most important event to end an age. And here's why. Deuteronomy 12:13. Here's what God says to Israel. Take heed to yourself that you do not offer your burnt offerings in every place that you see, but in the place the Lord chooses. In one of your tribes, there you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there you should do all that I command you. Did you catch that? In the place the Lord chooses. As long as the temple was standing, Israel still believed God had chosen natural animal sacrifice. It had to come down. That's why Hebrews 9 is full of timing verses. There's an improvement coming. The end of the age is coming. He came to deal with sin. He came to take this into himself. Christ's sacrifice was the improvement. It took away the need for further sacrifice because his finished work not only cleans up your mind, it can actually make you new. It redeems you and it makes you new. So think of it this way. The improvement, you are the improvement of the temple. You are alive. You are mobile. You are unique. You are different than the person sitting next to you. It gives God a different house in every person that speak different languages and have different hopes and dreams and thoughts and pasts and histories. Beautifully, fearfully, and wonderfully made. You are the masterpiece of God. Why would he surrender living in you so he could live in a temple made out of concrete, marble, and stone? It didn't work the first time. Why would it work this time? It's why Jesus came to declare a reformation. I believe he's happy to be at home in you.